Cricket is one of the most exhilarating sports known to mankind, often requiring your average viewer to sit down for hours at a time in order to enjoy a match. Despite it being called boring for this very reason, mostly by children of Indian immigrant parents, I could say that I'm a child of Indian immigrant parents, before the 1970s, the idea of cricket was limited to payback. It was a way for nations that had been colonized by the English to get their colonizers back, by beating them at their own game. But then, in 1975, cricket got its very own World Cup. And instead of cricket being a casual, gentlemanly agreement between two nations to play one another, countries from around the world now had an even bigger stage to showcase their skills and put their talent on display to the globe. Over the years, the Cricket World Cup has attained global fame, and has gone on to propel cricket into the limelight as one of the most enjoyed sports on the planet. Over the course of the tournament's illustrious 44-year history, we've seen a grand total of 12 World Cup finals, and I'm going to be going over all of them. So without further ado, let's begin. I don't understand why ICC couldn't have just given the Cricket World Cup final a cool name. I mean, the NFL doesn't call their game the annual National Football League Championship game, they call it the Super Bowl. Anyways, this was the first ever World Cup final, and surprise surprise it was held in England. Another thing to know about the World Cup is that the ODI format of the game was created specially for the purpose of a World Cup in the first place, and so back then it was 60 overs instead of 50 as we know it today. The final of the 1975 World Cup was played at Lord's between Australia and the West Indies, or as I like to call them, cricket's monsters of the Midway, because much like the '85 Chicago Bears, there was nothing much wrong with this team at all. A bowling attack for the ages sporting names like Bernard Julian and Lance Gibbs. The team also had a great batting lineup, with players like Clive Lloyd and Viv Richards disposing of any sorry bowler that threatened to cross their path, including Australia in the final. The West Indies become the first name to be engraved in the Prudential Cups trophy, and the first ever cricket champion of the world is crowned. Yay, the English made it to a World Cup final. I mean, they did kinda have a self-imposed home field advantage, and then there's that whole they invented the sport thing, but regardless, they're here. However, in this excitement, they cease to realize that the West Indies are still a team. Once again, the insane talent of the Windies, fueled by their high-powered mindset and companionship, come to the party, thumping England by 92 runs and successfully retaining their crown as world champions. But this isn't just any team we're talking about, this is England. They shall all be prepared to take a hard look in the mirror and blame the loss on Bob Willis's injury. Wow, the West Indies are in the final again. Literally nobody is surprised. And they're playing India, a team that's only won once in the previous two World Cups. Let's be honest, the only people saying that the Indians even had a slight chance to win were probably intoxicated to a point of no return. Only a brick wall could stop the West Indies now. The odds are 66-1 in their favor. They're surely on their way to another championship. Alas, they failed to chase down 183 runs, and India wins the game in a fashion so unlikely it trumps that of the chance that the Jets have to win the Super Bowl. On a more serious note though, this World Cup is considered the awakening of India not just as a cricket team, but as a nation on the global stage. A real turning point for all Indians around the world, and I don't know, I wasn't born yet. The 1987 tournament marks the first ever World Cup outside of England, being jointly hosted in both India and Pakistan. And in one of the brownest achievements in history, the two countries managed to host a 30 crore World Cup without a single rupee. No, literally, not even a single rupee. I guess that's what you get for expecting one family to fund the entire thing. Anyways, the final was played in Eden Gardens in Kolkata, yet again featuring an English loss, this time at the hands of their mighty arch-rivals Australia. They kept it extremely exciting almost all the way up to the game's end, but nonetheless, with 19 runs required off 10 balls, the English batters collapsed to lose the game by 8 runs, and Australia collected the first of an eventual 5 World Cups for them. Finally, some color. I was getting tired of looking at white all the time. And honestly, these classic universal striped shirts look so amazing that I'm gonna force you to stare at them for 5 seconds. Okay, done. So, 1992, England are back to the final for the 3rd straight time, and honestly they probably shouldn't be, but you know what, I guess the TV broadcasters decide how to handle rain now. After a bit of power hitting in the later overs, Pakistan moved to a total of 249, setting England an extremely challenging target, especially in a final. A masquerade of impeccable bowling from Wasim Akram, Amer Sohail and Imran Khan finishes the job, giving Pakistan their first and only World Cup so far, simultaneously sending England home from a World Cup for the 2nd time in just 4 tournaments. And I can say for a fact that I take no pleasure at all in English sorrow. They really do suck. The 1996 edition of the World Cup was one of mysterious beauty. And no, I'm not just speaking for the jerseys, although they do indeed look straight fire for real. Not only were the eventual winners of the tournament not expected to take a step towards the final game in Lahore, but they weren't even expected to be at the tournament because of the level of conflict within the nation at that time. A bankrupt, broken, but somehow inspired Sri Lankan team powered by captain Ranatunga made it all the way to the final. After keeping Australia to a respectable first innings total of 241 for 7, the Lankan Lions got off to a good start but soon lost their destructive opener Sanath Jayasuriya for just 9 runs. Australia is bowling beautifully and Sri Lanka is dead to rights. It'd take Christ himself to come down from heaven in order for Sri Lanka to win this one. Spoiler alert, Christ came down from heaven in the form of Aravinda de Silva. 3 years after their embarrassing defeat at the hands of Sri Lanka, Australia had charged through to the final with a vengeance. The star-studded bowling attack took the entire Pakistan team out for 132 and won the game by 8 wickets. A game that was initially anticipated to be the greatest World Cup final ever turned into one of the most lopsided victories the ODI format has ever seen. This tournament was also marred by a scandal involving bribery claims against the South Africans. No, that's not just an allegation, Herschel Gibbs admitted to it. So sadly, the only thing fans will take away from this edition of the tournament is that Pakistanis hate English pitches and Hansi Cronje loves gambling. The 2003 World Cup final is a somewhat traumatizing day that most of us Indians would like to forget. It also marks the second trophy that was awarded to the Australian dynasty of the late 90s and early 2000s. Ricky Ponting in Australia put up an extremely clinical performance, rendering bowlers like Ajit Agarkar, Zaheer Khan and Ashish Nehra ineffective within a short few hours, and casually stomping all over the hopes and dreams of 1.3 billion people. This of course can be attributed to the fact that India have proven unable to win a single ICC tournament unless Dhoni is their wicketkeeper. I mean, there is 1983, but that was like 40 years ago. Australia continues on their vengeful journey of endless destruction and suffering. This time, they have a chance to get back at the team that humiliated them in Lahore 11 years ago, and truly claim the crown of World Cup giants. This time, they don't falter. Adam Gilchrist bats like a man possessed and Australia proceed to stomp ruthlessly all over the Sri Lankan bowling. Thankfully, the rain saves them any further humiliation, but that doesn't stop the Aussies from putting 281 runs on the board in just 38 overs. Sri Lanka proved to be unable to chase down the total and lose the match by 37 runs. Whine all you want about the rain and the darkness, Sri Lanka, but you still weren't gonna win this game. Your team did not play well at all. Maybe next time. Looks like next time came quicker than expected for you guys. And this time it's against India, a team that has seen some of the greatest talent come in and out, only to collect a grand total of 1 World Cup trophy since 1983. Sri Lanka does very well to put up 275 runs in the first innings, and it's all pretty much downhill from there. Even if they get the wickets of Tendulkar, Sehwag and Kohli, they miss out on Gautam Gambhir, who capitalizes with 97 runs. Then Dhoni single-handedly returns India to relevance with an incredible innings of 91 runs. India retains that World Cup and Sachin Tendulkar finally brings home the coveted trophy for his country. In the buzz around India winning this World Cup, we forget the accomplishments of Sri Lankans as well, like Mahela Jayawardene hitting 101 runs off just 88 balls in the first innings. Still didn't win though, L. A lot of cricket fans waited a while for something to happen in this World Cup. They waited quite a while. Unfortunately, the only thing we were treated to was the undoing of the New Zealand national team on live television. The Black Cap fans watch in horror as Grant Elliott is the only thing keeping the innings alive. The Aussies swiftly chase down the measly total of 186 and win the World Cup for the 5th time. Hooray, I guess. This puts Australia in a whopping lead for the most World Cups of all time, followed by India and the West Indies with 2, and then Pakistan, Sri Lanka and England with 1. I know nobody asked, but I still said it. Wait, why is New Zealand here? Hey India, why is New Zealand here? You were supposed to have them in the bag, but no, you just had to go out there and not chase 240 runs. Now we cricket fans are forced to suffer for your sins by sitting down to watch England versus New Zealand in a World Cup final. Anyone else think it's super funny that England has never once won the final despite inventing the sport? Just me? Okay. Just do us a favor and beat the English, please, New Zealand. Nobody wants to see those fans win a World Cup. Or just lose in a super over because anything an Indian fan could possibly want from a World Cup just has to be tarnished, right? You can complain all you want about how you tied the super over and the boundaries rule is stupid, but you know what would have helped? Not giving up 15 runs from 4 deliveries. Also, Jesus Christ, Australia has a good jersey. Well, that's it. We've successfully gone over every single World Cup final ever. Can't say it made me nostalgic because I was born in 2008, but still, I could say that I've been enchanted by some of the magical moments that the World Cup has offered to us fans over the years. From thoroughly entertaining games to upset victories to absolute blowouts, the Cricket World Cup final will always be a major attraction that brings in billions of fans from across the world. And if all goes awry for your team during the tournament, just Google their 90s World Cup jersey because those things look so good. Holy